Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the upper tier, and this morning we wanted to take a look at the Chelsea takeover. News breaking today that Todd Boehly has signed an agreement to take over Chelsea, and the agreement now just has to be ratified by the Premier League and the UK government. He has signed up for everything that Roman wanted, and also the Chelsea Supporters Trust and the UK government. And this is a significant day for football. And if you're as old as me, you recognise, like, I remember life before the Premier League. I remember life, before Sky Sports, before BT, before the Champions League, when it was the European Cup and all that. And sometimes significant moments come along in football. And I think this is a significant moment in football, albeit relating to Chelsea Football Club. But this will send waves through other clubs and through football in general as well. This deal is a monstrous deal. You're talking about serious heavyweights coming into the ownership of Chelsea Football Club here, with a burning desire for success. And when you look at the different elements of the deal and stuff like that, you can see that this isn't a jump in to make a quick buck or anything like that. These are guys who are looking at building a franchise around Chelsea Football Club, not dissimilar to what FSG did at Liverpool, also the Cronkies and the Glazers and stuff like that. You can see the magnitude of how they've grown these clubs into massive franchise brands all around the world. You can see it even with my own club, Liverpool, also with United, Arsenal. Like, they have fan bases all over the world. It's massive everywhere. You can see it even when I travel to the States and stuff like that. Now football and soccer, as they call it over there, is a big deal now. It's big business. And it's fair to say Todd wanted to buy the club. He tried a takeover bid back in 2019 and it failed, somewhere in the region of about 3 billion. This was on the back of Roman being pretty upset on the limitations they pushed on him back then through Theresa May and stuff like that. Absolute stupidity stuff, really. But Todd, the man, he has got the club that he wanted, and it's massive. But I suppose the question in there lies, who is Todd Boehly? So when you look at Todd Boehly, he's Eldridge Industries co-founder, chairman, and CEO, and also the Hollywood Foreign Press Association interim CEO. So when you look at Eldridge Industries, there's a lot of facets to this and stuff like that, and a lot of very successful uh, litany of records there and stuff like that. This is big business for this guy, massive wealth, all this kind of stuff. But they're involved in everything from life insurance, real estate, technology, food industry, sports, media, and entertainment. And really, when you think about football and how it shapes our lives as fans, I mean, depending on what football club you follow, brand awareness is massive. So, we wear the clothes, you know what I mean? If your club is sponsored by Nike, you wear Nike clothing. When you go to the grounds, you drink certain beers and drinks, you eat certain food. The technology side of it that you use is all intertwined and stuff like that. So this guy covers a lot of the platters of this business in terms of creating this massive franchise and brand that we follow. And we're so influenced day on day now by these brands, especially linked with our clubs. And especially in terms of sportswear and stuff like that. But if you look deeper into some of the brands he's involved in, this is a very impressive portfolio. And this is a massive day for Chelsea Football Club. And look, hats off to them. I mean, the fans have gone through torture this season in terms of what's happened with Roman, also what's happened with injuries and the Lukaku debacle, the stuff that Tuchel has had to put up with and stuff like that. No, like, it's been a huge season for them in so many wrong terms. And you would imagine a massive bounce back next season by Chelsea Football Club. But let's look at some of the brands he's involved in. He's involved in GoPuff, which is valued at 15 billion. So there's massive wealth behind this guy. Money is not an issue with this guy, albeit he knows the value of the dollar and he wants to be successful. So that's really important to know here. This is not a guy who's just buying, like another trophy to put on his mantelpiece. This is a guy who's big business. He also is involved in Chuck E. Cheese. Anyone who's familiar with the States, Chuck E. Cheese, a massive food uh, massive food brand over there. It's the equivalent. It's the cheese and the mac and cheese and the pizza equivalent of the likes of McDonald's and Burger King and stuff like that. So absolutely massive. He also owns 20% of the Los Angeles Dodgers, which most people would have known at this stage. And he's also part owner of the Los Angeles Sparks, a professional basketball team. He's also owner of fantasy sports company DraftKings. Now, I'm sure our viewers would be familiar with DraftKings, especially if you're a UFC fan or an NFL fan or American sports fan. DraftKings is huge. DraftKings is like a betting where you make your picks and stuff like that. You pick your players and you pick your players. I know it came out heavily in the UFC originally, where you'd have to pick the winner of the fight, you'd have to pick the round, you'd have to pick the method, and it all comes up into an accumulator, and you accumulate points, and at the end of it, you win money. But massive DraftKings, huge business over there. Also, Bowley's MRC and Penske Media Corporation merged as part of a joint venture to manage their publications, including they're involved in Billboard, Rolling Stone magazine, The Hollywood Reporter, and Variety. So these are massive. These are massive brands over in the US, and subscriptions and magazine services and online sort of news and all that kind of stuff. So absolutely massive. Like I said, in 2019, he tried to take over a Chelsea Football Club somewhere in the region of 3 billion. But Roman rejected the takeover bid. So from get-go, this guy has wanted Chelsea Football Club. He's made it very clear what he wanted. He didn't come late to the party. We know that the Ryan Bank has been managing the financial side of it and doing all the due diligence and stuff like that, along with input from the UK government and stuff like that. And it's weird, the stuff that's been going around to try and derail it. If you look at the media, they're like the hyenas over there in the UK that circle the carcass. And we've gone from talk during the week of, Chelsea going out of business, Chelsea leaving the league, all sorts of stupid stuff, that Roman wanted the 1.5 billion back, and he just kept on throwing out narrative after narrative after narrative to put a spin in it, and then other talks surrounding the deal and stuff like that, and whether the deal in all its facets would add up to something that will be palatable to the likes of Todd Bowley's group and stuff like that. So there was a lot of indecision there, obviously a lot of anxiety and stuff for Chelsea fans and stuff like that. But today's a big milestone day for Chelsea. They've got their man. It's going to be massive for the club. I mean, you can see when we go down through the key points of the deal and stuff like that, you can see where he's looking at developing the club and stuff like that. And there's key elements of the deal here that are really, really important. But let's go down through some of the key points of the deal. The deal is 4.25 billion. And it's just pending approval now by the Premier League and the UK government. All of that due diligence should be done in the next week or two, so in time for the end of May, for them to lodge their license and be included in the Premier League setup for next year and all that. 2.5 billion will be applied to the purchase of the shares in the club, so that will be the purchase of the club. And 1.75 billion is set aside for the development of Stamford Bridge, the academy, the women's team, Kings Meadow, and continued funding of the Chelsea Foundation. So basically, they're looking at investing this 1.75 billion, certainly in developing Stamford Bridge, which is great news for Chelsea fans because they don't want to live or go anywhere else. Stamford Bridge is where it's at. They want to redevelop that ground as much as to its potential as they can, but also investing in the academy, the women's team, all facets of the business being brought up and developed at all stages. Massive investment there, they've understood to it that the consortium has agreed to clauses that block the payment of dividends and management fees until 2032, so 10 years. Also barring the sale of any Chelsea shares for 10 years. Now, this is really, really significant because this is one that dictates that they're not buying the club to make a quick flip or something like that. That literally they're tied into the club at least for the next decade. And that's massive when you think about it, because the stability that that's going to bring to the club in terms of being able to plan a business for the next decade out. And we know these guys are at the front end of technology and all that stuff as well, which will only help Chelsea in its development and becoming better and better. But that is a real significant clause that's gone in there. And that is one that a lot of potential buyers might have walked away from. Because as you know, if you make an investment, if it doesn't necessarily go the way you want, there's always that get out where you could leverage it or move it on or sell shares or do all that kind of thing. But these guys are locked in for 10 years, which means they have to put together a short, a medium, and a long-term plan for the next decade. In terms of Chelsea's potential growth into this monstrous franchise. And I know franchise is not a word that sits well with us as football fans, because we're not really, as football fans, we don't like to think of our teams as being franchises. They're football, local to the culture, to everything you grew up with, born and bred to follow your team and stuff like that, and you hold it in high regard. So I think this is an interesting move. And that's a very interesting clause that's in the deal, and one that will reap massive benefits for Chelsea Football Club. It means now they can go out, they can plan their player management, their youth development, and that would be a clause in there that's significant in terms of Thomas Tuchel, because Thomas Tuchel will be looking for that stability, where there's guarantees there, where look, this is the path that we're going to go on and stuff like that. We're not going to get the upheaval that we had before of, ownership stuff. There's going to be money there that's available. These owners will expect Chelsea at some stage to return and become profitable and stuff like that and all. And no doubt with its substantial growth ahead and the potential of the club as whole, definitely will happen. If you look at the priorities that they've put in place, looking at some of the priorities you're looking there, obviously the first one that kicks out, revamping the stadium, and of course updating the squad and the stability of putting Thomas Tuchel in place as well. I think tying down Thomas Tuchel is absolutely massive, because if you go out and you look at the market at the moment, he's a top quality coach, absolutely top of the echelon, and you can't afford to go out and look for someone else, because there's not too many other coaches out there realistically. There's himself, Klopp, Pep, maybe one or two others, and that's it really. So really, really important. Obviously in the short term, probably keeping Marina in place as well, just to get an understanding. Obviously when the Boehly group was in there, they're going to have to do similar to what FSG did when it went into Liverpool. They're going to have to get an understanding of Chelsea Football Club, the surrounding area, what it stands for, the culture of the club, the history of the club, all that kind of stuff. And that takes time. And also to understand how the market works in terms of football and in terms of players and in terms of transfers and all that kind of stuff. Because it's not like baseball, it's not like basketball, it's not like what happens in the States where you have the draft and all this kind of thing. It's a different beast and a different animal that they'll have to understand. So I think her input initially in the early stages will be vital. Obviously, we know in terms of squad development, defensive reinforcements are needed, especially at the back with the exit of Christensen and Rudiger. But also, you're going to have other exits there as well. They know that they need to do a bit of work on their midfield, and certainly the Lukaku, Ziyech, and all that front line has to be looked at as well. There's potential issues there as well, and also contract extensions. Very, very important that they move quickly to tie down long term Reece James, Mason Mount, and stuff like that. Those guys are pivotal to Chelsea's success going forward as well. If you look at the whole situation, if you think about it, has been so destabilizing to Chelsea. The club's had to deal with so much, but this news today will clear all that up and give people, take that doubt away. I'm sure the likes of Kai Havertz and players like that were probably looking over their shoulder and go, well, what the hell does this mean? We're being encapsulated in this invasion of the Ukraine. We've lost our owner. He's basically been banished from the country. All these sanctions had come in where they were only allowed to spend X amount of money, that they would guarantee the wages and stuff like that. They couldn't negotiate contracts with players and all that. So I'm sure some of those key players were turning around going, well, do I really need to be, is this what I really need? You know what I mean? And obviously that has caused a distraction both on and off the pitch. So that should all go away now, and they should be able to stabilise that out. Let's have a look at the club statement, because the club statement is really, really interesting. Chelsea Football Club can confirm that terms have been agreed for the new ownership group led by Todd Boehly, Clear Lake Capital, Mark Walter and Hans Borg Weiss to acquire the club. A Chelsea statement read, of the total investment being made, 2.5 billion will be applied to purchase the shares in the club, and such proceeds will be deposited into a frozen UK bank account with the intention to donate 100% to charitable causes, as confirmed by Roman Abramovich. So this is the people who have been affected by the invasion of the Ukraine. UK government approval will be required for the proceeds to be transferred from the frozen UK bank account. In addition, the proposed new owners will commit 1.75 billion in further investment for the benefit of the club. So stadium, squad, and all those other layers underneath that lead up into the success of the main squad. This includes investments in Stamford Bridge, the academy, the women's team, Kings Meadow, and continued funding for the Chelsea Foundation. The sale is expected to be complete in late May, subject to all necessary regulatory approvals. More details will be provided at that time. So that's a statement there from Chelsea Football Club confirming that the deal has been agreed. It just has to be ratified by the UK government and the Premier League. I don't see that being a problem. From everything we've heard, Boehly has ticked the boxes and stuff like that. But this is a really, really exciting time now for Chelsea Football Club. Probably not dissimilar to when Roman came in first and the excitement that created, but probably that same excitement, but with a decade of stability built in underneath it as a foundation, which is massive for the club. And the one thing all other clubs have to look out for now is that Chelsea are going to come back, and they're going to come back really strong. They've got a fabulous manager. They've got a great youth system already in place. They're going to build a fantastic squad, and they're going to come back and be a real power there again. And I suppose the goal for our own club like Liverpool, Man City, United, Arsenal, Spurs, all these other clubs is now we're all going to have to step up yet again. And this is like another step in the ladder really to move up, albeit we're already flying high along with Man City and stuff like that. But this is a key day for football, a massive day for football. Not only for Chelsea Football Club, but I think for football in general worldwide. When they see these takeovers, they're absolutely massive. No shortage of cash, no shortage of desire, no shortage of a winning mentality, no shortage of all the other key things that goes in to make a business successful. And you will see massive change in Chelsea over the next 12 to 18 months as they return and become a massive force in world football again. So Chelsea fans, be excited. Let us know your comments down below. It's been really interesting actually looking into this episode and stuff like that. I wasn't fully aware of all the brands that Bowley was involved in, but you can see they're all really, really successful brands. Not too much there on his career that is negative in any way. It's all positive and it's all successful. So look, we wish Chelsea all the best in their new road back to the pinnacle of football, and we will wait and see how our own clubs react to it. As always, the upper tier podcast at gmail.com if you want to contact us. Audio versions of the show, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. And if you want to contact us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, out there on Twitter at _upper_tier. You'll find us everywhere. There's no platform we're not on at the moment. If you're enjoying the show and enjoying viewing the episodes, of course, subscribe to the channel. Let us know your comments. Always drop a like on the videos. Let us know your thoughts on this, especially if you're not a Chelsea fan. Let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about this for your own club as we navigate through this world of franchises now and brands, and we leave behind probably some of the essence of why we follow football. Until next time, my friends, a pleasure.